Welcome to IHIP News, where we share our opinion about the news that is important to us. And what I have to say to everybody is listen up, buttercups. This is tough times. Mm-hmm. This is overwhelming to think about, but we have to think about it. We have to organize, and we have to talk about what went wrong. And I want to say first and foremost, the Democrats have got to stop courting the far right. Stop it. Trotting out Liz Cheney is not helpful. She's wildly unpopular. We have great ideas, and when our ideas are taken on ballot measures, most of the time they win. Make the moral case for progressive causes, because the right doesn't try to court us.
No.
They do not try. You have 40% of the country that's hard right, 40% that's, mid to far left, and then you have the center. And I believe that the majority of us support LGBTQ plus rights, support a woman's right to choose. And just because Trump won doesn't mean they're right. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong, listener. But right now they are celebrating and they are trotting out, yep, we intended for Project 2025 to be the plan all along. So if you're scared, you should be scared. Yeah. But you also have to be confident that you're on the right side of history. Let's just take a listen to what RFK said recently on a podcast.
A lot of people think that Trump is a conventional politician because the last time around, he initially appointed a lot of very conventional people, of kind of lobbyists, et cetera. Yeah. People don't remember almost his entire cabinet was gone within 2 years.
Yes.
As he learned to govern, and he wants to do, he will do what he wants to do. And I spent 2 days with him recently, and he was saying things that were kind of shocking to me. He was saying things like that, the kind of change, the level of change that he wants to make in our government, I think is going to be unprecedented.
The kind of change he's going to make is going to be unprecedented.
When I heard him say that, my stomach dropped. I had not heard that clip before. And it causes me so much anxiety. And I'll just be real honest. I have a ton of fear right now. I'm having a hard time keeping myself together because I'm scared. And I am afraid Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is correct. The kind of changes we're going to see are unprecedented.
What we have to hope for, listener, is that certain things hold and that certain things remain. And that is the First Amendment, so that we can continue to podcast, so that the press can continue to expose light on injustices. And we hope that there's an election in 4 years. And there's no question they're going to rain hellfire down on right-wing policies. And the poorest and the most marginalized will suffer the most. And so to all of our LGBTQ plus listeners, to all of our minority listeners, I know that this is incredibly painful, because as a woman, seeing that this is the first national election post-Roe, seeing that white women came out and voted against their best interest is alarming.
It's alarming. It's breathtaking. It really is. I kind of have no patience for it, to be real honest.
And I want to say, there was a lot of talk before the election of people saying, Black men aren't supporting Kamala, et cetera, et cetera. The Black vote came out and they did their job.
They did.
And so I'm tired of that. And the focus needs to go more on, why are the Democrats courting far right people? What would have been more helpful from Liz Cheney would have been for her to stand up to say, I supported a lie that executions occur after babies were born. I was a part of the problem that led to a lot of this misinformation, and I'm here to correct the course. But she didn't. It was just like, oh my God, look, we need to give Liz Cheney a profile and courage because she's able to spot a criminal when she sees one.
Right.
And we can't give a trophy to somebody for being normal. And when Kamala did that is when I started thinking, what happened? Why aren't we doing the weird thing anymore? That was resonating. So that really concerned me. But when I really autopsy this, as a Democrat, I became concerned when we went to that fundraiser in LA and Joe Biden came out on stage, and he was so old. And I think the autopsy of this is everybody in the corporate press is going to be like, oh, we need to listen to the people on the right. We need to listen. We need to hear what they have to say. No, we don't. They don't take the time to listen to us. Quit that business. What happened is Joe Biden should have 2 years ago said, I am not seeking re-election. That's how dangerous this threat is. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and we're going to have a robust primary, and we're going to run the very best person we can to be the opposition to this proposed authoritarian fascist regime that Trump and the Heritage Foundation are promoting. But he didn't do that. And they trot him out at the debate, and it was a faceplant. And is everybody held to different standards? Yes. Mm-hmm. Does Trump get away with a bunch of shit that Democrats don't? Yes, it is what it is. But I think that's the fatal error. And I think Kamala did the very best that she could do in the 107 days that she had. But you didn't have an engaged Democratic Party that got to engage in primaries. And I think that is one of the biggest faults of the Democratic Party this cycle. We didn't take it seriously until it was too late. We didn't take it seriously. Merrick Garland didn't take this threat seriously until it's too late. And you have a whole generation that has grown up, Gen Z, with the normalization of Trumpism on their phones. And I'm not the only person that thinks this. Let's listen to Charlemagne the God.
No, what does Biden's going to have to say something?
Biden.
What does he say?
Biden is one of the problems here. And the reason Biden is one of the problems here because Biden should have let everybody know he was just a transitional president. He should have let everybody know he was just going to do 4 years and get on about his business. And, you know, Biden should have dropped out a year ago or 2 years ago. And they should have made him drop out a year ago or 2 years ago. Or not drop out, but to say he was not going to run again.
So she could have, so people, not even, whoever could have prepared, right?
Whoever could have prepared. They could have did a proper primary, picked the candidate. I still think, the VP probably would have been the best choice, but I think Biden is one of the bigger issues here that people aren't going to want to talk about, but they should. At the end of the day, America spoke loud and clear. Like it was a free and fair election, and people went out there and they voted for the candidate that they wanted to vote for. Correct. And now that candidate is our president. You can say whatever you want. Oh, that's not my president. Yes, it is. And the things that they're going to do in the White House with control of the Senate is going to affect us all. So what we doing?
So none of this mitigates the fact that Joe Biden was a consequential president.
That's right.
But the fatal error in this is the hubris of an old man who was a good governor. I mean, he governed well, but once he got power, he didn't want to cede it. And that's the problem. We did not have a robust primary, and he didn't deliver that he was going to be a transitional president, that he was only going to do one term. And are we held to a different standard? Again, I'm going to say yes, but I think this is the fatal flaw. I remember when we were at that George Clooney, Barack Obama fundraiser, when Biden came out on stage, and I looked at you and I said, this is bad. And it was in the summer, early summer, and I was like, this is bad. He is not electable. And by this time, he had already become a caricature, because another reason that Trump won is they have a very, very powerful right-wing media echo chamber, from Fox News to the Ben Shapiro organization to Alex Jones to Elon Musk owning Twitter. Mm-hmm. And they own that. And the misinformation and the disinformation and the ability to caricature a candidate, they're first on it. And they label these candidates, and it just injects into the psyche. People aren't intellectual about the news anymore. We're all very vapid about it.
Yeah.
It's a very click-through news thing. And the Democratic Party is going to have to adjust to that. They're going to have to adjust to the way people consume news and build a coalition of being attack dogs, of caricaturizing the insanity on the right. And we have an oligarchy now, so let's see the oligarchs, the billionaires that believe in democracy. Let's start some platforms, because that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I too have been thinking, what's the autopsy on this? How did we get here? I think you're 100% right. What I land on more than anything is that the things that Trump is saying and how crazy he acts and the 39-minute dance party and all of those things, eating cats and dogs, we have a right-wing media complex that's huge. I mean, the top 20 political podcasts in the world, I think 17 or 18 are super extreme right-wing. And then you've got Fox News in everybody's home. And so they sane wash it, they cut away from it, they minimize it. Here's the deal. Then you've got mainstream media, and I'm an MSNBC person, so you've got them. They don't really hit it as hard as they should. A few of them do, but it should be like, America, this is what we're seeing. What is going on here? Instead, we covered it on a previous IHIP. It's like the headline, you know, when he's talking about tariffs and child care tax, he has no idea what he's talking about. And they're like, he lays out his economic plan. You know, it's like you're not getting the full story, because I think this right-wing media sphere has intimidated mainstream media to think that, because they always say, well, it's fake news. They both, you know, they're so liberal. I think they're intimidated by it.
And this is what my point is. Quit placating to 40% of the population. They don't give a shit.
Right.
He doesn't want to be a president for everybody. They don't want to be the party for everybody. The unique thing about being on the left is your policies automatically advocate for everybody. And so there was no effort to drive out the base. When you're trotting around Liz Cheney and you're up against all of the things that you just described, to your point, all of the right-wing media echo chamber, and then you have the New York Times, the Washington Post, all of these other mainstream media that it's like, Trump sharpens critique of border crisis.
Right.
You know, and he's talking about, you know, putting people in detention camps. One person that I saw that tried to cover this appropriately, bizarrely, was the Drudge Report.
Yes.
His headlines were more on target, but even the way we consume news has changed from that. My recommendation is Kamala HQ was a great source.
Loved
the
it.
Democratic Party needs to take over those handles, and they need to engage millennial and Gen Z youth to keep fighting this fight and build a left-wing media echo chamber, because when these policies are taken one by one, do you think that we need to reform the gun laws? Overwhelming majorities say yes. Are you for gay marriage? Overwhelming majorities say yes. Are you for protections for marginalized groups? Overwhelming says yes, but the right-wing media caricaturizes us, that everybody's wanting to run around and send kids to school and whack off wieners and do all this stuff. It's just marginalizing the most marginalized members of the community. And we have to change, because they wanted that. It doesn't mean their policies are right. Just because Hitler was the Chancellor of Germany, and it didn't mean that was right. This victory doesn't mean they're right. So for those of you that are aching, that are young, and this was your first time to vote, I am so sorry. I am sorry. I know how badly this hurts. I'm a 50-year-old woman, and I know I've fought for, politicians to win, and they've lost, and it's devastating. And this one is even more so, especially if you are a member of one of those marginalized groups. But we have to fight for what we still have left. And what remains is a First Amendment, a free press, freedom of expression. And we have to make sure that that stays intact. And we have to make sure that we get to an election, to the midterms in 2 years, and that we get to a presidential election in 4. Because when they had 4 years of Trump, nobody wanted him to come back.
Right.
Nobody wanted him to come back. And I hate it that a lot of his supporters, like he wants to dismantle the Department of Education, what that's going to do to rural America, who by, margins that are insane
80,
voted
90
for him. It's going to be really, really painful for those communities. And I don't like that. I'm not one of these liberals. It's like, good, let those fuckers feel it. It's just, I understand that they've fallen prey to a mass misinformation and disinformation system. I understand the reason why Gen X voted majority for Donald Trump, because we grew up in the Reagan era. We grew up with the normalization of homophobia. A lot of Gen Xers grew up in these major mega churches where they were taught in their churches that being a Democrat was terrible and evil. And, you know, we have to start generational change and play the long game, because the right wing has done that. And we can't run around and be nuanced. We have to simplify it, dumb it down, and build a resistance. Pumps, if I do not get a good night's rest, I am like a cranky toddler the next day. And as I'm getting older, I find it so difficult to get consistent sleep.
I absolutely value sleep as much as anything on the planet. And I have a hard time falling asleep and then waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to go back to sleep. I struggle with that.
Listener, I know a lot of you guys do too, and that's why we are so excited to talk about Beam's Dream Powder. It is a science-backed, healthy, hot cocoa for sleep. It is so indulgent. It is so nice. And I'm telling you guys, it's so effective, because I think we're all kind of stressed out right now.
Very.
And I have been sleeping like a baby. Other sleep aids can cause next day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful, all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium L, theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. Listener, right now, Beam is offering our listeners exclusive early access to their cyber sale. This is the biggest sale of the year, and our listeners can shop it early. Get up to 50% off when you visit shopbeam.com/IHIP. To try Dream for the lowest price of the year, head over to shopbeam.com/IHIP and get yours before they sell out. Shop beam.com/IHIP for 50% off. With the holidays coming up, it's so stressful because everybody knows they have to dig in and spend a lot more. And there's an elephant in the room that happens in January, and that is debt.
Debt is something that worries me to no end.
Listener, that's why we're excited to share with you about PDS Debt. It can help with a personalized solution just for you. If you're making payments every month on your debt and your balances aren't going down, PDS has solutions for you. Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies, and there is no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit are accepted. Save more while paying off your debt in a fraction of the time. Start planning today. Get a free debt analysis right now at pds.com/IHIP. It only takes 30 seconds. That's pdsdebt.com/IHIP. pdsdebt.com/IHIP. And lastly, I want to leave everybody with this. This is the difference between the right and the left. When Donald Trump lost a free and fair election, he whined, he moaned, he's a sore loser, he's a titty baby, he's so disinformation, he started a coup d'etat.
Right.
January 6th, he could not give a concession speech, he could not shake his opponent's hand, he could not make a concession call. But let's listen to what Kamala Harris did yesterday.
To the young people who are watching, it is... I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves.
I kind of get teary.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And in my lifetime, that's always how it was. And Joe Biden called Donald Trump and congratulated him. And I just think of the character. I'm sorry, you go.
This is hard, everybody. I mean, this is really hard. And I believe with the 107 days that she had, she did a phenomenal job. I disagree with the approach that a lot of Democrats take where they start trotting out, a trophy Republican that joined a coalition. But it's difficult. It's easy for us to sit in these chairs and criticize when somebody is on a national stage like that. Right. And I thought her concession speech was really what the heart and soul of America is. And we have to roll up our sleeves and we have to fight for what remains. And we have to fight for marginalized people and build a coalition and be smart about this. And it is overwhelming to think about what's going to happen on January 20th and how sustained the regression is going to be. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be hard. I spoke to my son who's away at college and his girlfriend last night, and they're terrified. And they should be, because he told us exactly what he wanted to do. They printed Project 2025 out and published it. We know what's coming. And it's unfortunate, but all of the conspiracy theories that are going on Twitter that this wasn't a free and fair election, shut up.
Yeah. It's
localized. Our elections are safe. We can't do that. Mm-mm. Kamala had a building full of powerhouse election lawyers that look into everything. She would not have conceded if they had a sniff of any sort of nefarious play. And I know that means you're probably still in the bargaining / denial stage of this, but we all have to come together and try to fight for what remains so that in 2 years, we have a blue wave midterm. 2 years can go by quickly. And in 4 years, we have a chance to elect somebody that we have been able to get behind and vote and form a coalition behind the proper way.
Let's hope so. I have to tell you, I'm kind of worried about if we're ever going to have another election, but I'm trying not to catastrophize.
I agree, but we're going to have to take it one step at a time. Right. And right now, I would say the goal is to hold the line.
That's right.
Make sure that the First Amendment is there for all of us to continue to have this voice, because we need to form a sense of community. And there are tens of millions of people that disagree with Trump. And even if we were smaller in numbers, their numbers in his victory does not make it right. Picking on people and removing discrimination protections and rounding up people and separating families and deporting people, it doesn't make it right. There are solutions that we can come together and work together towards, but that's not what they want.
Right. No, they've made it very clear what they want.
Okay, guys, we're going to try to keep doing this as long as we can to shine a light on this. Please support us by supporting our sponsors, and we will see you guys later.
It's so entertaining. Tap the vein. So